It's called deep dating, which I think used to just be called being yourself, but Gen Z has made it called deep dating. So I want to paint the picture for you. You're out on a date. They ask you, "How was your week?" Seems like a pretty basic question, but what do you say, right? So your sister is ill, you're having financial trouble, you have some medical thing that you don't want to talk about. Where is the line between honesty and connection and vulnerability and trauma dumping or TMI? Where is it? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, deep dating. Let me see if there's anything else I want to say before we jump into that. I don't think there is. G, you've got a little story on this. I think we all
I do have
do.
a little story, but also my brain goes to maybe you're not dating in your life, but this is still relevant for like meaningful connection with people.
Yeah.
Same idea, right? So even if you're not dating, this will still be valuable and it'll be pretty funny. So the story goes like this. I remember being on a date with someone and I had already conjured up an idea of who this person, not who they are, who I made them up to be in my mind, of course, before this date happened. So I really liked him. And I also really wanted to keep liking him because, it works better in your story of your mind if it goes that way. And so we were out on this date, we're having dinner, and there were genuinely things that this person said that delighted me, that felt nice to hear, that I was like, "Oh, like this seems like a great person." And then there were also things that felt less like that, but let me paint the picture. What I noticed in hindsight, thinking back to that dating time, was I would feign excitement and like approval almost over everything the other person said because I want him to be a nice picture in my mind. I want him to think that I like him. I want to be likable, and my belief back then was if I am pleased and easy, then I will be likable. And if I'm likable, this person will choose me, hopefully.
So
That's
does
the
does
exchange.
that look like too much smiling and like agreeing with everything?
Like, wow, really? Yeah. Like, and this is where it can feel tricky because there's a genuine part in me that gets really excited when my heart lights up, when I feel a resonance and a connection with someone. It's real. But if I'm honest with myself during the course of that date and like many other dates, he would say things and other people that I'm on dates on would say things that probably, if I was being true to myself, had more the energy of, "Hmm, that's odd." I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about that." Or, "Wow, that's troubling."
Right.
But I wouldn't let myself face or feel that because that would ruin my illusion, and it would
Mhm.
also get in the way of being seemingly really likable and easy to please, and it would ruin the whole, "I hope I can be super nice so that you can like me back and we can go and
Yeah.
live a happy life."
Right. Yeah, relatable. Yeah.
Yeah. So feigning excitement, feigning approval when it wasn't true.
Right. Yeah, very relatable. So could you walk us through a little somatic practice that people can use in those moments? Like we're in a conversation with someone we don't know very well, and you could use this as well for conversations with people you do know very well, to sink into yourself and to actually be present instead of with that story of hope in your mind.
Yeah. So just something very simply is, can you feel your butt in the chair? And can you give your hands a squeeze? And just notice your breath. And like imagine, like I'm looking at my screen right now so I could see you. So it could be that you're my date. I just want to look beyond you. So actually I'm looking at, I don't know, I think out your window is a fence. So I'm looking at that fence and I'm feeling my butt on the seat. And I could either notice my breath, or if I felt it was helpful, I could just connect to a long, slow exhale. And you wouldn't even know that this is what I'm doing. I
Mhm.
just look like I'm looking at you or looking in your direction. And then I, look off for a moment and turning my head, I'm actually seeing the glow of the lamp on the wall. And I'm squeezing my hand and feeling my butt on the chair. And again, a long, slow, sort of gentle breath. And then I might turn my head and maybe I'm looking at a person walking by at the restaurant, right? And seeing them. I'm feeling my butt on the chair. I can squeeze my hands if I want. And it's what this is it's a little slowing down and it's a little coming back to me and my body. It's a little checking in because feigning excitement has an energy and a pace to it. Like even now as I'm talking, you can hear it's like speeding up.
Yeah.
It's a different energy than here, which is I'm with me. Because right now I'm actively feeling my butt on seat and I'm with you. I'm looking at Steph right now. Here I'm with you, right? I'm just bringing me in this moment to meet you in this moment, which is very different than, really? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ugh, no, thank you.
And you know me, you know I can get excitable. Like this feeling right now, that feels genuine.
Yeah.
So I am a very excitable, expressive person. And if I'm honest with myself, there's a different feel between genuine like and I want to appear likable and I want you to like me.
Yeah. This is going to be a theme throughout this episode and hopefully throughout everyone's life. There's going to be a fake and a real version of a real part of yourself. And we're feeling into the difference so that you can bring the real version to your date or to whatever it is.
Mhm.
So I want to add a little somatic piece here because I notice when we do these, and something I've learned for myself with these small somatic practices is that I need a bit more to actually quiet my mind. I can easily segment my brain into doing 3 independent things. So I need to be doing a somatic element for each of those in order for my brain to actually be here. So I would be feeling my butt on the chair, the support and contact of that. I would be feeling the texture of my pants, so the sensation in my fingers of my pants, and then I might have a hand somewhere supportive on my body. So the body feeling the support of myself. So 3 points of contact seems to bring my mind enough online to be present in heightened moments. In case that's
Yes, and
helpful.
this is a process of self-discovery. And like you really not that you can't self-discover on a date or during an important conversation, but you really want to self-discover when stakes are low in everyday life, right? So what I notice right now, I changed my body position where I'm pushing my hands into the sides of the chair. And so when I do that, I feel this firmness of contact under my hands. I feel a sturdiness in my arms. And that started steadying my breath. And then that made it possible for me to really just look at you and hear what you're saying to me. Right. So, but you're not going to know this stuff. Can you hear what I'm saying right now? All these weird things pop up on my screen to say, do you
Yeah,
want to use hand
frozen.
gestures? Am I back?
You're back, hooray!
So a strange message came on the screen that said, would you like to use hand gestures?
Oh, oh,
I said
technology.
no. But as I was saying, when I repositioned my hands on the seat, it helped me settle into more like, oh, I'm here,
Yeah,
right? And I could connect with me and you more easily. There's a
yeah,
felt sense difference than when I was sitting and my hands are sort of floaty.
yeah. That's such a subtle key difference that we have to discover over time, I think, in this healing journey, I'll call it, as we sort of stop identifying so much with our anxieties, really, is what it is. Understanding what it means to actually be present takes on quite a different meaning. So, curious to find out sort of how people feel they are on that spectrum. Does it resonate when we talk about being here with each other? I now know the vast difference between just listening to your words and waiting for the next words to come and waiting for what I'm going to say and actually being present in the moment. So that's really a lot of the theme here as well, too. And I want to give you guys a bit of statistical information. When we were researching for this episode, it's really interesting what comes up and what's different between generations, and especially in this realm of dating. I know a key theme in the world right now is vulnerability. There's a fine line between vulnerability and trauma dumping. Trauma bonding is a huge theme in the world right now as well. And a sort of misunderstanding of the concept of teaching people how to treat you.
Mm.
So, like, what will I put up with versus let me relay everything my therapist told me to you about what healthy relationships look like and how you need to fit into that role. And like covertly or overtly teaching someone how they ought to behave is a different thing than, expressing your boundaries in an embodied way and, what you will and will not participate in life.
So
Yeah.
this is real time practice here. I don't know, for those of you listening right now, did you notice as Steph was sort of, I don't know, you picked up your pace and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to tell you because, my therapist said this, blah, blah. My insides got a distinctly different feel in that moment
Yeah.
than when you were talking earlier and when you were talking after. And that's the thing we want to practice feeling. Your insides might have felt really excited to hear Steph talk about that. Maybe that kind of energy lights you up. Different people get excited about different things, but here it's about getting clear and honest with yourself about which energy you prefer, which feels good for you. I noticed that when you sort of dropped your pace a bit and you're speaking more from what you want to say to me versus what you think you're supposed to tell me, I had a different level of aversion versus like, oh, I'm drawn in, I'm interested. And
Yeah.
I'm like settled here and ready to hear versus, ooh, ye, right? And like the ooh and the e is good to notice. It doesn't mean something's wrong with the person. It doesn't mean it's going to be a horrible date or a bad conversation. Doesn't mean you need to run for the hills. But it's a good thing to just register and
Mm.
continue to pay attention to when I'm interacting with this person. Which are the moments that I feel sort of relaxed and open and I'm here with them and they're here with me? And which are the moments where I sense me or them or us in this performative, we're trying to please each other energy? You're going to be able to track that if you're willing to practice and pay attention.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting. So there's two stats that I pulled up in looking into this episode. And I think it's pretty classic to what we hear, certainly working with people. And one of the quandaries people have is how much should I share? How much is too much?
Mhm.
Women want men to open up. Men feel like when I open up, she pulls back. It's this dance that we are learning how to do culturally, I think. And so the stat is 43% of women wait for the man to initiate going deep, and they assume that he does not want to. 43%. Meanwhile, 48% of men don't go deep because they fear that they will be too much. So this is kind of what we're going for today, is talking about what is too much? What is vulnerability? When is it safe and appropriate to share? When does it cross the line into trauma dumping and trauma bonding?
Mhm. Um, I'm not really a numbers person, but what I take away from that is most people just wanna know it's okay to be themselves,
Mm.
and they would like to be in the presence of people who also feel comfortable being themselves.
How the
That's my
hell?
takeaway.
How? Like, at what point were you taught to just be yourself? Like, we've
Never.
all
It was
been
don't be
programmed.
yourself.
Exactly. So now here we are. We're in this horrible confusion, and we're making it worse. So there's 3 more bits from the
Okay.
episode research that I wanna share, and these are things that are making this more confusing for us, and they're popular cultural trends. The first one I saw the name of, I did not look into it because I do not want to know what it is. It's called Date Till You Hate Challenge. You've seen
I
these
Googled it. I
challenges on,
just Googled it.
you
It's not
did?
good.
It's not good. I can't imagine. Why would you want to do that? The next one is the bare minimum versus princess treatment. So this is just like smacks of performativity. People pretending they only need the bare minimum. You know, my needs don't matter is effectively what that's
Hey,
saying.
I feel called out.
You know, a double call out. And then the princess treatment is in, I'm going to ask for the world, and you know, whether you give it to me or not will tell me all about you. It's a way to avoid ourselves and to try to control other people. And then the dating for content, which is where people actually just go on dates to generate content for their TikTok or whatever. Like, could we be further away from authentic connection when we see this kind of thing being the social trend in the world?
Right. When I think of this, the truest thing for me, especially when I talk with people who are actively dating right now, it's the idea of dating to notice what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy, what lights me up, whose presence and energy impacts me a certain way, right? And it's like dating to collect data about who I am and what works for me and what does not work for me.
That's huge.
Yeah.
So, can you say a bit about, and this is, we're going to do a bit of teaching now about vulnerability in dating and self connection and the importance of that. And I wonder if you could say a bit about the blocks that we have to feeling what's true for us. You know, you're speaking so simply, and I know that it wasn't always this way for you, nor was it for me, to know what feels good and right for your body. Like, we would have had a time where what felt good and right for our body was actually not healthy or helpful. It just was so normal to us that we thought that that was the right way.
Yes, for sure. Because I would date people, and what I thought felt good was me chasing their approval, me
Oh,
getting
yeah.
breadcrumbs that are in 1 minute, out the other, super into me one day, 2 weeks later disappeared, and just that revolving door. And that felt good when they came back through the door. So, what I really had to learn, and you think this is about dating, but really, if you want to know who might be a good partner for you, if you want to know who what might be a good job for you, all the things, you need to know what feels good and what doesn't in simple everyday moments. Right? If you're not aware of how your body lets you know what feels good and what doesn't, what would be a tweak that would make this feel better, then how would we possibly know when we're sitting across from someone if this person does light us up or not?
Yeah.
Right? So it's really a daily practice outside of dating, outside of hard conversation moments with people, where we discover what works for me and what doesn't. And then
Yeah.
you go on your date, you have the conversation, and you get to notice this thing that I really appreciate about people that really feels good when I interact with people this way. Was it present when I was interacting with this person, or was it not? Did they show up in a way that makes it also easy for me to show up in a way that feels good? Vice versa, do I show up in a way that seems like it's helps the other person show up more real? That's what I want to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
But how are you going to know that if you never practice that in your own life in everyday moments?
Totally. And you're also speaking to the range of what's possible, which generally speaking, we're all very limited in. We've had this little slice of experience and we think that's all that's possible. That revolving door that you talked about, hot and cold breadcrumb stuff. Many of us think that that's the only option. That there is no, the gentle home feeling of love where you feel actually safe and good either sounds boring or impossible or like it's for somebody else. And that really speaks to our nervous system state and our understanding of what's possible and what's good. So there's a lot
Mhm.
of work to do there in feeling into that and being open just to noticing, and the body being the key way to feel into this, because our head will say this is not possible, or this is not good, or this is not what's happening, and our body can notice actually it is. Here it is, and it just kind of feels nice.
Mm-hmm. And listening to you made me I actually have flashbacks of dating. So I remember being on dates with this person, and they like never opened the door for me of the car. And like, I don't know if it was a rule I made up in my mind or rule that society teaches you at some point if you've been this sort of a doormat of a person for most of your life, and all of a sudden you're supposed to be this empowered woman, and like people should, a good man will open the car door for you. And it's interesting when we try to follow all these rules, because
Mhm.
I could easily paint the picture of you didn't open the car door for me, you must suck, right? And I didn't paint that picture, but I thought that in the moment. But if I would have paid attention, I actually would have noticed over time with that particular person. That was just one example of not being very thoughtful with my needs, or
Right.
like, extending care.
Yeah.
But I only would have noticed that if I actually paid attention instead of trying to make everything about him likable for my sake and his sake.
Right.
And then, I feel like with other dates and other relationships where they also never opened the door for me, but they showed care and thoughtfulness in so many other ways. And if I would have just been rigid that this rule must tell me this,
Right.
then
You'd have
I
missed
would
out.
have yeah, I would have missed out, right? And
Yeah.
and like noticing over time with someone when I share with them, "Hey, it feels good." Like I have a weird quirk, which is I would like time to put my seatbelt on in the car before the car starts moving. Like, that's just a safety thing that it feels like my nervous system gets to feel settled. I don't like the feeling of I'm trying to fumble my way around with a thing and someone's already driving off. Doesn't feel good
Yeah.
for my body. And, like, for years, I would just fumble and be like, "Oh, don't be too needy," right? Just whatever. And then finally one day I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna say something and say, it would feel really good for me if I could just have a moment to buckle up, and then you can whisk us off and I can feel more settled that way." And you notice the people who are like, "Oh, of course, it never occurred to me. I'm so sorry. Yes, no problem." And the people who don't give a crap and
Yeah.
continuously do that and just
Yeah.
think that you're too much.
Yeah. I have a parallel but opposite, of course, story about the car door and the sort of person who would be in a huff about you wanting to get your seatbelt on. So I had some unfortunate programming left over from a relationship where he would have been like, oh, you stupid seatbelt problem, shut up, you know? So I was out years later on a date with a very nice, sweet man, and I did not yet understand that that was possible. I just assumed he was a dick like everybody else, but that maybe he would like me, and that's all I really needed at the time. And he opened the car door for me, just as a gentlemanly way, but I didn't know what a gentlemanly way was at that point. So I said out loud to this nice man, "Oh, you're not driving my car." I assumed he was opening the car to and like we had just met. Like, no, that's not what was happening, but that's what my mind made it mean. And,
Mhm.
this is an important part of what we're talking about.
Yeah, so slowing down enough to notice what our mind makes things mean,
Yeah.
right? And also remembering this is something I really love that I wish I knew when I was dating. I only really learned much later in the process that this is a stranger plus one date or a stranger plus half a date. No matter how they show up, unless they are blatantly harmful and dangerous for us, we really don't know much about this person, no matter what they say for either side, either to say that they're wonderful, or maybe they're not wonderful, or maybe they're wonderful and not aligned for us. We just can't know that quickly
Yeah.
because they're still a stranger.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is allowing ourselves to be emotionally, energetically, or even practically attached to someone far quicker than the degree we actually know them. and can trust them and can rely on them. And I had really had to learn that pacing.
Yeah. Well, it has to emerge, right? And this is part of the vulnerability problem. And what is really being meant by deep dating is we want to go deep with a person. And we have attention span of a gnat, right? And we don't know if they're going to disappear. So we want to get it all in. We want to give all of our value up front. We want to let them know immediately what all of our personal problems are so that they can support us in that and so that they can reveal their personal problems to us as well. And then hopefully we can develop a really serious trauma bond and have a fiery, passionate relationship that fizzles out in 3 months. For a lot of people, that's normal. And what we're talking about is a healthy degree of sharing in a healthy way, letting who the other person is emerge over time, which requires
Yes.
trust and grounding in your body. I
Yes.
know, especially for a lot of people, and mainly it's women that we deal with in this context, who have just learned all of this stuff about themselves and said they've got a window into their own soul that they've never had before, and they're accepting all these parts of themselves, and they know now what they want in a partner, and they know what they can expect from a healthy man, for example. And so they want to list all that out on day one, right? I'm just going to let you know all of this. It feels almost sensible to do, like, hey, heads up, here's all of me. How about all of you? This is what I think they're talking about when they're saying deep dating. And what I'm suggesting is that it's misguided and that there needs to be some calibration and some emergence over
Right.
time.
This is a piece that I think trips up a lot of us in thinking that we know someone, that talking to someone and telling them all the things about ourselves, having them tell us things, asking hypothetical questions. Hey, if this were to happen, how would you deal with? I've done all this. Like I was an expert pro at this. And it gave me this false confidence and false impression of a person and our compatibility because that's just talking. If someone can't talk and say all the greatest things at the very beginning where you don't really trigger each other's wounding and all the old patterns, then like that's already a sign, right? I
Yeah.
always say like the beginning should be great. Like that's the time where it can be the easiest because all the stuff isn't stirred up yet. But when we talk to someone, that is great. When we talk about meaningful things that you value, that is important. And that is not sufficient for you to then claim, now I know this person. That
Yes.
takes time to that you spend with someone, that you see how they respond when they're activated, you see how they respond when their feelings are hurt, you feel see how they respond and do life when they're overwhelmed, when they when 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 you just get on each other's nerves, when someone isn't treating them fairly. I have discovered, like, I wanna know how this person responds. And this is a test that I never used myself in that whole dating phase, and I had learned it the hard way, is do I respect and admire how this person navigates this situation right now? Whatever it is that they're facing in their life, either outside with other people or with me.
Yeah.
And, like, I looked at this relationship in hindsight, one that, like, I pined over, I wanted it to work out so bad, like, this was, like, who was my person in my mind. And when it all fell apart and I still pined after this person, at some point, I asked myself, "If I'm honest, do I really respect and admire how they show up in the world and how they handle the hard moments with me and other people?" And it was a resounding no.
An
I was like, "What?
obvious no.
What? What
Yeah.
just happened? How?
Yeah. Wait a
How
minute.
did I spend years pining over someone who I don't actually even respect and admire how they show up?"
Yeah.
That was good information.
Hmm. Yeah. I want to say something on this speaking versus doing thing, because this is prime real estate for our brains. This is where we've written the story of what
Mhm.
love should look like, and we've attached to it the hope of the person that we're on this date with. So when they say something that matches the story, we paint this elaborate picture unconsciously without even realizing we've done it. And we're just like, yeah, check, check. They said the thing that matches my story. So I like extreme examples, and I learn by doing things in extreme ways. And this is no exception. I was dating a guy, and he said that he really liked to clean, but only 1 day a week. So I was like, oh, what a great balance. Like, he's not a clean freak, but he also likes to keep things clean. I was tick writing a
Right.
story in my mind.
He didn't say
Um,
anything like this to you. So first of all, he didn't even tell you any of these things. You were just making it up,
no, he said
right?
he liked to clean. So the facts that I had were he likes to have a clean house, but he's relaxed about it every day of the week because he works 6 days a week. And then on Sunday, that's his cleaning day. And I was like, that sounds like such an amazing balance. Like, I also only like to clean sometimes, and amazing. So the real life of that I learned eventually was that he was the literal messiest person, no, second messiest person I've ever known. The amount of mess that he made from Monday to Saturday was extraordinary in my view. And then the cleanup on Sunday, I've never seen anything like it or since. So it was naked, first of all, naked cleaning on a heroic amount of mushrooms, magic mushrooms, and 2 bottles of bleach he would pour all over the floor. I'm not exaggerating, 2 entire bottles of bleach on the floor. Then he would scrub the floor with a broom, and then he would mop up all the bleach with all of the towels in the house. What? And when I said, hey, you don't need that much bleach, he was like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, that's my man. What on
Yes.
earth?
So this is the danger, the risk we put ourselves in when we take the words as the everything.
Yeah.
And not only do we take the words as the everything, and that means we know them, we fill in the gaps and make those words mean all sorts of things.
Yeah, that's right. So leading and actually that relationship led with at the time what I thought was just vulnerability and connection, and in hindsight I realized was trauma dumping and trauma bonding.
Mhm.
So I remember the appeal of someone being really vulnerable with all their dark thoughts and feelings. And now I understand that there's a time and place for that, and immediately is not really the time and place. That speaks to a degree of uncalibration within, like I used to lead that way and now I don't because I'm in a healthier place.
Yeah.
So that's something that's not going to be joining me on a dating journey in the future. And it's something worth
Yes.
noticing if that's what feels good to you as a listener. There's something really in there to look at. There's sort of a distrust of things emerging in their own time.
Mhm. And this is not a shaming, blaming thing. Like, we totally get it. I've done it myself. It's just I didn't know any different at the time, right? And so when I think about the difference between trauma dumping, if you wanna call that trauma bonding, TMI, sharing as a test of if I share the things about myself that I'm most ashamed about and feel hardest to accept in myself, does this person still stick around? Because I'd rather know now than after I really, really like them and then they discover this about me and then they run away.
Mhm.
And what I've learned again in hindsight is when you share from a place of self acceptance, like you have come to acceptance about this part in you, the energy and the pacing of the sharing will be very different than when that's still a part of yourself you're a bit ashamed about, you're insecure about, and you're trying to get some approval or some validation about it. It has a different energy.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's wrong or bad to feel insecure about some parts of our life or embarrassed or whatever. I'm saying just know that for yourself. Which parts of your life are still a little bit tender, right? Which part of your life do you need to hold with a bit more compassion still? And even if you were to choose to share, right? So once you tag it as this is tender, This is a part of my life that needs a little holding still. You might realize, A, this doesn't seem necessary to share with a stranger the first time I meet them. Or if you really felt compelled or it really felt like the moment was true, that you share it from that place, right? Of, hey, this is something that I've been going through or have gone through, still feels a bit tender for me. And, I'm really happy I have great support in my life for that.
Mhm.
Like when I say that, there's a real like steadiness in
Mhm.
my energy and my voice because that's the truth.
Yeah. That's a real key in terms of what to share and when. And what you're describing, so is both self-acceptance and being able to share from it's like it's not even really a vulnerability anymore, it's just a fact about yourself, you
Yes.
know? So there's changing the threshold of what feels vulnerable to share, which I think is important. But there's also this body capacity piece that is so crucial. Um, and I'm thinking about deal breakers. I'm thinking about all the
Mm,
things that, like, you should have told me that before we went on a date or on the first date, or like, I wouldn't have fallen in love with you if I had known that you
mhm,
like, I don't know, a certain type of dog, so whatever the fact is, whatever the deal breaker is.
mhm.
So if something's really a deal breaker, like wanting to have kids or not wanting kids, that needs to be like upfront in your dating profile. That's not the kind of thing you withhold because it's a vulnerable, I'm not sure.
Well,
But
let's
there,
pause for a second because
yeah,
I think this is a good place to notice when I don't share the things that are important to share because I'm afraid that means this person would bow out or
yes.
make clear to me that we're not actually aligned. And I don't want to risk that. I actually sort of maybe want them to like me first and
Mm,
maybe hopefully they will change their mind on this thing.
mhm.
Right? So sometimes we're sharing from an uncalibrated place, and sometimes we're withholding from an
From yeah.
uncalibrated, scared place, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I think the threshold of what to be shared when is so deeply connected to our capacity to be with discomfort. So, like, I wouldn't have fallen in love with you if I had known this factoid, which was actually completely appropriate factoid for you to reveal once we had established safety. That just means I can't yet sit with disappointment. I can't be with the feeling, the frightening stuff that comes up with vulnerability or the
Mhm,
uncertainty or the loss. And those are all just part of dating and being in love. You cannot avoid those things with rules or deal breakers or timelines or any of that. So just factor that into your reality for dating and connecting with people, and learn to grow that capacity. That's going to be a really huge piece.
mhm, mhm. I really what came through for me through all of this healing and growth work, learning to really fully accept myself, is this piece that I think I would have pushed hard against if someone would have tried to present this to me 10 years ago. That when you're dating or sharing from a place of self-acceptance, this is who I am. Essentially, take it or leave it kind of thing. Like, I'm here to enjoy myself. If this resonates and aligns, we can talk further about whether we continue. And trusting that when two people come from a place of self acceptance and be with each other, be with the real version of each other, that in itself will reveal whether alignment is there. Instead of my old way was let me be as needless as possible. Let me be as positive about you as possible so you'll like me. And then I hooked you in, I got it. And then over time, I'm like, wait a second.
Ah!
We're not actually aligned if I'm honest with myself. We're not aligned. And the kicker here is also, and I've heard this from so many people, I got so consumed with being liked by the other person. I didn't even check in to see if I really like them.
Yeah.
Like what?
What?
But it happens and it happens
Yeah.
fast and it's sneaky when we haven't practiced these tools of slowing things down and really being with myself and what is here and true in this moment. And is this a body yes, a body no, a body I'm unsure, I need some more time to sit with this, or need some more time to see how this unfolds? We get into situations where we're so busy either, trying to be liked, we don't realize if we even like them, or here's the flip side of I'm so afraid to be smothered by this person, so I keep distancing and running away. And then only when it's totally over do I realize, wow, I really like and value that person. There was something really real and connecting and deep here. But I wasn't staying with both sides long enough to feel the totality of the experience.
Yes. Yes, indeed. So I want to say that this is entirely the work that we do. We do the body practice and the capacity building stuff in our somatic sessions. We do the relational, actually saying things out loud, actually being with the other people in our conscious relationship training. You can learn about both of those at wholeheartedloving.com. And to wrap this up, I'm wondering if you could walk us through a somatic practice for before, during, and after a date. So, like real body and mind preparation for being with what you're describing, actually present with the moment and the other person and yourself.
Okay. So this will be a little bit of a mind body practice. So before, and we can practice this right now. So sit or stand or lay in a way, stand in a way, just be in a way where you are aware of your body and what it's touching, what it's supported by right now. So I really feel my left leg touching the side of the chair leg. And I'm letting that sort of let my body sort of settle in. And for this practice, I'm going to place a hand on my body somewhere that feels comforting. You could do that or not. And I'm going to use this sentence stem, which is my intention for this date is, or if you're not dating, my intention for this experience is, or my intention for this conversation is. And just finish that sentence. Say it out loud. Feel how that feels.
Yeah, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just want to have a nice time. I just
Great.
want him to like me.
Great. Perfect. Wait. My intention is to have a nice time. So speak that out loud. See how it feels.
Well, my intention now is to have a nice time, but in the past, what I'm getting at is that I wouldn't have known
Okay.
where to
So,
source that when you're
right.
just
So,
rushing.
so what I'm getting at is it's probably a good idea to sort out an intention before you go. Right? And like, I think this is a great example when you say well, I wouldn't have known what the intention was. Great. Then give yourself some time, right, to get curious about what that intention is. And if you're like, I really don't know what the intention is, maybe it's, I don't know what my intention is for this date. I'm going to go on it and see if it becomes clearer to me what my intention is when I go on a date. Right? Okay. Here's the next one. Success for me on this date would mean or look like. This will reveal a lot.
What a difference.
What
For
happened?
sure, in the past, it would have been something like, he'll kiss me. Like we've just skipped right past the do I even like this person to he'll kiss me.
Mhm.
And now it would be something like success would look like I felt present and we had a good conversation that felt connecting.
Yes, right? So what's great about these prompts is you're not trying to get the best answer, the right answer. You're just curious about what emerges, right? Because it's very illuminating what it reveals. And like, can we have a little laugh about what it reveals? And then when you notice success means he kissed me, can you check in? Does that truly feel like how you want to define success? If it is, it's totally fine. But you may realize, actually, I don't really want to use that as my criteria as success. right? Maybe there's too many variables. Maybe you realize I actually do want to know if I like the person before I would call success, meeting some random strangers kissing me. Right. So it reveals a lot, these prompts. Okay. So feel into that. Let yourself get clear with intention and what success looks like and feels like or sounds like in one small, tiny way. During, it might be, again, feeling some connection to your body. And it might be using a prompt like this: something I'm enjoying right now is. Right? And name that. Name that in your mind. You could even actually say that to the person. God forbid. That seems like a fitting thing you could share, right? Something I'm enjoying right now is this, right? I'm really enjoying that because. Another thing you could use as during is something I'm curious about is. Right? And you don't necessarily have to say it out loud to the person. It doesn't mean you have to ask them a whole bunch of stuff, but it's just a energy you're holding of, hey, I'm curious, right? I'm curious about, you know, how the rest of the night goes, or I'm curious about how he's going to handle that situation later on. I'm curious about what excites him in his life or her life or their life, right? Just to, in the moment, get connected to what feels nice and what you're curious about. I think if you can get connected to what you're enjoying and what you're curious about in a person, that's a great energy to be in,
It
right?
is.
When it comes to connecting with people.
And it's an inward and an outward energy at the same time, which I really like. You're seeking something within and observing something without.
Yes. Now, after, I might use a little shaking, a little moving around, right? A little being with whatever energy is there and enjoying it, and a little sort of just loosening things up and see what else it stirs up. But here would be prompts I might use after. Again, a repeat. What I enjoyed was something I enjoyed, and say it out loud and see what happens in your body when you say it out loud. Does your body give you that sign like, yes, I really did enjoy that? Excellent. Maybe you say it out loud and you're like, actually, no, I really didn't. That's good information too, where our mind is telling us, oh, I should enjoy that. I think I enjoyed that. But your body is saying, actually, no, I didn't really like that. It's good to know. Again, I'm curious to discover, right? Are you curious to learn more about this person? That would be good to know. Here's another one that I think I would have been too afraid to go to in the past. What didn't feel great was, or what I didn't love was. And again, it doesn't have to mean anything beyond that one observation because you don't know the person yet, unless it's like really horrible and you're like, this is a deal breaker for me. There's just one thing that you don't really love. Maybe the things that you like mean I had a good enough time that I'm curious to entertain the idea of another meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the category of I don't know enough yet about blank.
Mm.
I would also not like that prompt.
Yeah.
Because that would mean I'm not supposed to, I'm not allowed to. It makes no sense to imagine them as my husband.
Right.
I would have to be, this is like being with reality. The reality is I don't know yet enough about blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Right?
There's so much energy in what you're describing. When you did the shake at the end of the date thing, it made me think of like how many of us have had a date that went really well, and when we're alone immediately after the date, we're like, like we're shaking and jumping and punching. That's how much energy is there. The energy of the unknown, of uncertainty, of love and hope. These are really large sensations that we have to learn to hold in our body if we want to be with ourselves while all this is happening and not bypassing everything and just launching into the story of marriage that we've written as children.
I have one story to tell about that, but I would finish with one more prompt. I'm proud of myself for, right? How did you show up where you're proud of yourself? I'm proud of myself that I did this, or I didn't do that fake smile thing. Like that would be something I'd actively be practicing.
Yeah.
Right.
Love that.
And here's another one, just throw in a bonus. Something I learned about myself is, right? Something I discovered. Maybe you discovered, oh, I really like this trait in a person that I didn't know I valued that much, or I really don't like this, right? So you're getting more and more data.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
The story I want to tell, and maybe this can be our little wind up. I remember going on a date with someone who seemed lovely in texting and in phone calls. And I think they were having a genuinely fantastic time on the date. And I was sort of slowly dying inside because I was just like, I can feel this isn't, I don't feel what I need to feel to want to see someone again. He was a perfectly fine dude. And I get into my car afterwards and I think I just cried and cried and cried because I'm like, this is not my ex. This is not the person it's supposed to be, you know?
Yeah.
And what do? Text the ex.
Oh, yes.
Because I couldn't hold and be with my sadness and my disappointment. Right? And there's nothing wrong with texting your ex. We're not shaming that or, saying it's bad and wrong. But what I noticed was I didn't know how to sit with that. I didn't know how to sit with, I was so excited to go on this date. And over the course of the date, I really didn't feel what I needed to feel. And I feel disappointed about that. And it makes me miss what was good. Like, so I couldn't discern that in the moment in the car when I'm crying. I couldn't discern, this makes me miss what was good about my connection with my ex. I just blanketed it with, I'm meant to be with my ex.
Right. Yeah.
We should get back together.
I want to clarify here that you're not bad or wrong for texting your ex, but it might be bad and wrong to text your ex. But that's not a statement on the person doing the texting. It just might be not great
A
activity.
wise choice, not a
Yeah.
healthy, constructive thing to do, which I can honestly say it was not helpful.
That's learning, baby. We're
That's
all
learning.
learning, and it's pretty cringy, but we gotta get there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, G. I'd love for us to do an episode sometime about really what you described, the holding the parts that we don't like. And I think I did a lot of dating where I get along really well with a person. Like it's easy for me to get along with people. So I thought that meant we were destined for each other. And the nuance, the subtle and not so subtle nuances of knowing what it means to really be connecting with somebody in a partner kind of way.
You're teasing me because there's so much I could say, and I will
Aha.
save it. I'll save it.
I love it.
I'm learning to hold and sit with excitement
That's
and trust
great.
in the unfolding,
I
right?
love
We're all
that.
practicing.
Yeah, we are. Well, thank you guys for being here. As always, please do like, follow, and subscribe. And if anything we've said here today has been helpful for you, please share with somebody that you care about. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
How do we hang up?
Oh, how do we hang up? And bye.